Okay, starting off this video pretty much where I left off with the last one. I guess first things first here, working on some stuff in the engine bay. So what I've been working on now is getting this whole pulley situation slash alternator mount kind of all dialed in. It's been a mess to make this all work, but what I got going on here is I got F-body pump with spacers, so that way it aligned with the truck balancer down there. And then I had to use a 4th gen Camaro tensioner to align with the pulley on this F-body pump here. The reason I'm doing that is so I can just run the radiator hose down here. So the truck one would be here and it would come up and kind of have like a 45, and that would have hit the intake there, throttle body. What else I got? I got this little idler pulley from, I think it was a 5th or 6th gen Camaro, and then this is the stock truck alternator. This came with one of the engines I had. It looks pretty clean at work, so go ahead and use it. To mount this though, I got this ICT bracket, which it kind of worked. I just have a feeling it didn't work for what I'm doing because I got so many different things going on here, but it didn't line up exactly. So I just kind of used this L-shaped bracket and then made my own spacers for the back of it. Same for the idler pulley so that it gets all up in there and aligned. And I think that'll look a lot cleaner. I was never a fan of the truck alternator mounts or any really up high mounts, so that'll be nice. And then if I ever want to put a turbo right here in the future, got plenty of space to do so. Once I get that belt figured out, then I'll go ahead and do radiator hoses. There's a whole nother project in itself. Other than that, started messing with the wiring. So the other night we went through the whole holly here. I got a Terminator X for this. I think this will be pretty sweet. It's the way to go. Figured out exactly what we got to do, what sensors I got to get, figure that all out. It's been pretty fun to mess with so far. Ended up making a plate to mount the ECU kind of on the bottom side of the dash here, and the glove box will go back in there and you won't be able to notice. So it'll be a little bit tricky if I ever got to service it, but luckily the glove box is just bolted in with just 4 little screws. So not a huge deal. Once I got that bracket drying, just painting it right now. Go ahead, mount that, and then we'll have the power wires go from there. Have them come out basically through the center of the firewall, kind of in this little square section. Put this little plate with the grommet in there, and I think that'll be pretty clean and simple and look nice. Slight change of plans and a little update here. Like I said, I think in the last clip, we're gonna mount the ECU kind of under the glove box there. I didn't like that. It wasn't gonna work with the latch on the glove box, and turns out there is really no good spot to mount the ECU on this car. I didn't want to do it in the engine bay just because I think it looks clean as is, and my goal is to been trying to keep everything off the tops of the inner fenders. I think it looks better that way. I didn't really want to mount it here, have a bunch of wires running, so the next best option I came up with, which I'm never happy with anything, so whatever. The next best option we got here is going to be under the dash, kind of like so. If I could set up this light, there we go, something like this, there we go. It's gonna go underneath the ashtray here in the middle, and then here, this is the bracket I made for it. Got this whole little bracket situation going on. Turned out pretty good, just a 90 with some support tabs, welded nuts on the bottom. Brace will go through there. Then I'll put 2 holes on this flat piece right here, and then that's going to butt up like so, and you can see this like molding line on the ECU there, and that's actually going to be flush with the bottom of the dash. So you'll still be able to see the lights for the fault codes, which I guess is kind of a good thing, but it'll also be tucked up nice in there where it's not too obvious, and it'll give me plenty of space. The way I can just run the wires out of the back of the ECU here straight through the firewall up there, which brings me to another thing. I was looking at this the other night, and this could be a lot nicer under here. I really want to pull the heater box out and paint it all black. I think that would look clean. This needs some cleanup work. I want to pull everything out, repaint the backside of the firewall black. All those brackets from the dash there are, yeah, I don't know if they were bare metal from the factory, if they had like a light coat of primer or whatnot on them, but it's all pretty beat up, and the dash on the bottom side needs some work. As you can see, I kind of sucked at painting. And really didn't get the whole bottom side when I did this thing. There's some holes there from the old gauges I would want to weld up, and it's never ending, is it? It really is never ending. And then this guy, I don't really know what I want to do or how I want to mount this, because I don't know. I think something like this just looks goofy. It's kind of in the way over here. I don't really like it. I don't want to have it dangle. I don't want to have it like sit up here. I don't really know what exactly I want to do. Part of me just wants to say, forget this thing and get one of the Holley digital dashes, but that's, yeah, it's like another $800 for the one. But then it would be so cool if I had that, because then I can make this gauge cluster work. I can get rid of my square Speedo here. The square Holley dash would fit in here, but then it's center with the wheel, but then the gauge cluster is in center, so I'd want to add a spacer of metal right here to center the whole gauge cluster around the wheel, and then move. Okay, I gotta stop thinking before I end up spending another year on this thing. That's all stuff I'd like to do one day, so that's kind of been the thing this week, where to stop what I'm doing here, because I don't really know what I'm doing anymore. I just want to keep going and keep tearing this thing apart, because I'm not really happy with where it's at right now. I don't know. The engine bay looks good though, just kind of in here. I feel like I did all that work in there. I just don't want to, like, I don't know, half-ass it in here and not really do as best as I can. But I'm also on a time restraint. I don't know, man. All this just snowballed from trying to mount the stupid ECU. Okay, quick update from the past few days. Been working on all the stuff underneath the dash, some stuff with the battery in the trunk, and a couple of things in the engine bay. Right now, I'm going ahead finishing up my ECU mount. I'm just gonna make 2 bolts so that it'll actually bolt into the bottom brace of the dash. I went ahead and painted the heater box, satin black. I used Rust-Oleum. I just scuffed up the fiberglass and it actually stuck pretty well. So that'll look nice and clean under there. I'm happy with how that turned out. In the engine bay, I finished up my alternator bracket, so that is all complete, and I actually found a belt that fits. It took me probably 3 or 4 trips to find the right belt. I don't know why. I put a string around it and measured it, and I don't know, nothing fit. And then the other night, I literally just turned around and saw a belt hanging on the wall right there. I couldn't tell you where it was from or when I got it, and I kid you not, it fit on here perfectly. Like, it is the perfect fit. It was weirdest thing, but I'll take it. I'll take it. It's finally something good on my way here. Inside the car though, went ahead and painted under the dash here, got all the way up there, and I only did the passenger side as of right now. You can see that right there, because I'm not totally sure how much I want to tear out of the driver's side or what exactly I want to do. So instead of ripping it all out at once, I think I'm gonna go ahead and think about it. But obviously I can't put the heater box back in until I decide what to do there, because I'm gonna go ahead and paint the bottom side of the dash. But hey, that's at least motivating. That looks pretty good. And then in the trunk, we started messing with battery cables and the battery shutoff. So we got that right back here. Little bracket for it. It'll be just like so, tucked up in there, pretty nice. That'll be on, that'll be off. I think I want to trim it a little more, but I'm happy with where it's at. Made a stud for the negative cable up there. The negative cable will just run right here, and then we'll have the positive right there run alongside it. It'll kind of go up here, it'll go up through here, and then we'll drill a hole up there in front of the rear end somewhere where it'll just drop down, follow the inner frame rail all the way up to the starter. So once again, as usual, this has escalated into a week-long project, but I said the other day I was giving myself a week to get this done, and today is exactly 1 week. So last night, went ahead, welded up some holes, did some body work, nothing too crazy, basically just, I don't know, just patch up some of the holes that were on it. Went ahead, primed it, and we got it painted here. So let it dry overnight, everything looks pretty good, just black again. I only went up to kind of this crease line up here, because I don't really feel like going all the way back behind the glass and having to tape all that out, and I'm gonna get dash pad anyway, so If I blended this well enough, hopefully you won't be able to tell, and then once I put a dash pad on top of it, nobody will ever know. So happy with that. Go ahead, tear it all apart, or take all the tape and tarps and whatnot off, and then start putting this thing back together. Okay, update video here after quite a bit of progress and a long day working on the dash and other wiring here. So obviously in the last clip, the dash was just getting painted. Now it is all finished and got a lot done in the past few hours here. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I don't even know what to say, good God. Okay, where was I at? Oh yeah, so over the past week, I took everything out, all because of that guy right there, that ECU. Made a bracket for it, and then I was looking underneath, and I'm like, I don't really like how rusty and gross it was looking. So I tore everything, wiring, heater box, left the pedals in the pedal assembly because that was all freshly painted, but tore like the vents and everything out. Went ahead, cleaned up the entire underside, painted everything, every bracket and brace and anything and everything you can imagine. Painted the heater box black, so that looks nice. It's not so obvious. Got everything up in there painted, everything down in there, and that was like quite a bit of work. Like, I will probably never want to do that ever again because I painted it all by hand, and my hands hurted, whatever the heck you say. But yeah, it was worth it. I dig it. Turned out nice. Like here, one thing I just wrapped up was this bracket and a situation for the little touchscreen here. Let's see if I can see it from where the driver's seat will be, because it looks good from this side, I think. And I don't really know how I feel about it. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't really know because I didn't really want to put it here originally, but it's kind of the only spot that I got, because if I were to put it like here or something, be in the way of my leg, and this is just kind of center, and plus that plate is a block off for the radio, so I just welded two threads to the back of that, drilled 2 holes in there, so if I wanted to put a radio in it, just pop that off, remount the little touchscreen somewhere, and then I could put the radio in there. So still got the stock radio holes if for some reason I ever want to put that back in. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and paint that. We'll mount that there, it looks clean. One thing I was never a fan of was how they have the offset wire there. It has always bothered me, and it will always bother me. So I tried to tuck that up in there as clean as I could, made a little slot for it to slide in and out, and then basically flipped that plastic holder upside down so I could drop it down from below. Okay, long overdue update. I think the last thing in this video I filmed was me working on the dash for the first time after I like tore it all apart, painted underneath, cleaned up the wiring, and then repainted it. Well, because I ended up not liking it, so I tore it all apart again, repainted it, and that turned into a week-long project as usual. Shocker, right? That was frustrating, but I finally got it to a decent point. I was just, I don't know, this dash, I've never had any luck with it. From the first time I painted it, like 2 years ago, to now, I swear this stupid thing is made out of demons. There's no other explanation for some reason. So it's not the best paint job. It'll do. I kind of came to the realization of the fact that it's gonna get scratched up, is not gonna be perfect. It's just how it is, and I guess I just needed to understand that and stop being so particular with every little thing, something as dumb as the dashboard here. So I think it looks pretty good the way it is right now. There's a couple like scratches and whatnots and nothing, you know, it's not perfect, but hey, I'm happy with it. And because of all this, I went ahead and bought a dash pad for it, so that's finally, I guess, quote unquote capped off, no pun intended. But yeah, that is done. That was a nice finishing piece. Got my Holly screen there in the middle, starting to do some wiring right now. Got my ECU under there. It's all coming together. I went ahead and refixed my heater cables, so those they were like really, I don't know, sticky before. They didn't function super well, not the best, but now got those dialed in and everything. So yeah, that dashboard kind of wiped me out the other week, and I don't know, I was getting kind of burned out, so I took the weekend off. Just took a little break, I guess. That was the first time I really taken a break on this thing in like 3 months, and yeah, I guess doing the same thing almost every day trying to go to school, work, and then come home and try to cram in a few hours on this if I can. Burns you out after a while. So that was much needed, need to reset. And since then, I've been able to knock out a few small projects that have been kind of been in the back of my head, but been dragging me down for a while. First one of those projects I was talking about was the drain plug with the K-member here, and this was 100% totally my fault. I guess I didn't measure right, even though I measured like probably 4 or 5 times, not even joking, when we were making the mounts for this and getting it all situated, but I don't know what happened. I'm just dumb. As you can see, there is a notch now in the K-member up there, and you could probably put 2 and 2 together. So yeah, obviously the K-member went across normally like so, and the drain plug wouldn't come out. So I had to drill a pretty nice hole in there, make a piece, weld it up, grind it all smooth, and now the drain plug comes out perfectly. So now that that is done, I can go ahead and put the skid plate on, and we can wrap up that little project slash section under here. It's kind of a mess under here right now. Obviously it's not completed or anything, but yeah, this is what the backside of the ECU looks like. Got it running straight through the firewall there. Turned out nice. And then I made like a, can't really see it, but there's a pole that comes down to the top of the ECU bracket that goes up to the cowl I had to weld on there. And it keeps it from this thing shaking at all. I mean, I'm pushing up pretty hard right now and it's not moving. So with that pole being there, I was able to wrap the excess part of the main harness, which is pretty good, around that pole. And then I can just plug them in back here. So that turned out pretty nice. It's dirty. And then I needed to find a spot for my relay and fuses on the harness. So I made this 90 tab here, plug welded it on to the bottom of the dashboard because I couldn't get a drill in here with the heater box on. Grinded that down, and now I made little tabs to mount all these. They're just kind of mocked up. They're loose right now. I gotta go ahead and paint it, but that'll be nice and clean and have plenty of room to access that. And while I've been spending way too much time on this nonsense in here, my dad's been doing a lot of wiring throughout the car. Quite a bit done, actually. Let me see if I can slide back here. So everything for the rear mount battery is complete. I went ahead and made the tray and the hold down everything for it. We added a shut-off switch here too, so that's all complete, all painted and final installed. I went ahead and welded some tabs up on the inner, I guess, like trunk seam rail. I honestly can't even think of what this actual part was called. So then we put some 8-aught clamps to hold the cable. So from like here, it looks like there's nothing there. It looks pretty clean. It just runs up there. That'll run along the inside of the rocker there, kind of next to the sill panel, and then we'll just poke a hole in the firewall, have it go through. And luckily the starter's on this side, so that'll be nice. Doesn't have to cross over or anything. Negative, just a stud there on the floor. Bada bing, bada boom. That works. So this turned out really nice. Just got to take the battery out of the Bonneville. Actually, I'll probably just find a new battery for this car and just keeping the Duster's old battery in the Bonneville. That's why this thing doesn't have a battery right now. But my dad also has been doing a lot of wiring on the engine bay here. So our goal was to keep the Holly as separate as possible from the older stuff, I guess you could say. I mean, it's older stuff. But it came out of a different car, which was in really nice condition. So the wiring throughout this car has been all replaced. We did that 2 years ago. It's all fine and everything. I just didn't want the new stuff and the old stuff really integrated in case, something were to go catastrophic. So that's what we've just been doing. Got the Holly all situated, got all my harness, or not all my harnesses, every sensor I needed now. I just got to figure out just a few little guys left, like manifold air temperature and mass airflow. Just got to figure out those sensors. But my dad here made this really killer fuse panel and got the fans all wired up and is starting to wire it throughout the car here. So this looks pretty sweet up there. Got the relays mounted down low. Got the fuse box right here. We'll have a nice cover that'll go over it, keep it clean. And then he's got all the wires obviously running back through here. Got the alternator wired up. And another cool thing is we're gonna put this all in like a nice, Holly makes like this loom stuff you could put it in. So it's not like the cheap plastic stuff, and obviously it's not all electrical taped. So that'll look clean, and then I'll run my washer fluid hose just alongside it, kind of like in this channel dusters have on the inner fender here, and that'll just sit in there. I'm gonna go ahead and make some like straps that'll go over it instead of using zip ties or 8-all clamps. I wanna make some brackets that'll look nice. Have that go throughout the rest of the car there. Wiper motor's wired up. Yeah. So if you're a Mopar guy, you know how much these steering couplers here suck. And the reason they suck is because this little cap on the bottom part will always disconnect from the actual coupler piece. They have these little tabs that you can kind of like hammer down and bend them over the lip on the coupler, but they never stay on. They do make like a big C-clamp that kind of compresses the whole thing like this, but it's kind of big and bulky and really needs space for the manifold on this side. Plus I think it looks kind of ugly. So I went ahead and drilled a little hole through the coupler, drilled a little hole through the tab on the like plate here, fed some safety wire through, twisted it up, and that is going to hold it on just fine. I think that'll solve our issue. Looks pretty nice and clean, simple. I mean, I don't know, I'll call that a win. Say it's nice now until one of us just destroys our finger on it, but I'll see if I can't kind of file the edges and round it off. I think that'll work pretty sweet. So now I'm just gonna go ahead, clean the steering column up here, repaint it, and then I can toss this in the car and finally be done with everything related to the dash here. So we've had a pretty solid day and past few days of progress here. Got the steering column all installed. Jeez, what the heck was that? That was kind of a hassle. The splines, I guess, on the box weren't like lining up with the one in the coupler for some reason. I'm not sure why. The coupler lined up with the old box perfectly fine. I just think that the splines on the box here, something was just manufactured a little bit off, because we ended up having to file the QA a little bit wider, and then it slid right over it. So I'm not totally sure what the deal was here. I still got to get a new roll pin to put in the coupler there, but other than that, the steering column's all done. Freshly painted, that looks nice in there. And so far, this box feels a lot different than the last one, and it doesn't sound like a box of rocks either, which is pretty nice. So I'm happy with how that is. I'm excited to drive it with this box, see what the dealio is. And obviously this is still the automatic column, so I got this little thingy up here. Now I was going to cut this all off, make it all smooth. Same thing with the like the little bump notch thingy back there for where the shifter used to be up here on the column. But it's honestly not that big of a deal. I mean, I can get like a manual column at some point. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, heck, not even gonna notice. Maybe we'll put like a little plate in there or something with like, it says like cam racing, so when it lights up it says like cam racing at night. I don't know, I've been thinking about something like that. Kind of neat, whatever. Underneath the, oh, well, there's no light. Underneath there, I just went ahead and repainted the bottom side. Wiring's all hooked up, that looks nice. And then I spent the other half of the day here messing with the Holly and got the intake back on. So that was a lot of work that took some figuring out and everything. The only two sensors I have left now are my map and mat sensor. I just got to figure out where exactly I want to put those, and then I can plumb those in there. But I got all my vacuum ports hooked up, all the harnesses hooked up, try to keep it, once again, as clean and simple as possible, and I think it looks pretty good. Everything's tucked under the intake, obviously, besides the injector wires here, so I'm digging it. It looks pretty nice back here. It's honestly pretty clean too. It's a little, I don't know, it looks a little crazy, but that's the best I could get it with everything considered. I think that looks pretty good. The only thing I had to do that wasn't essentially plug and play is one of the grounds for the back of the heads. I just had to extend it to ground it over there, and then I just added a grounding strap between the head and the, I guess you could say the chassis, well, body of the car, because it's unibody. So yeah, coming along. I just measured out for a throttle cable. Gonna go ahead and order that. Yeah, bunch of just little stuff. Oh, underneath the dash, I finished up some of my wiring with my like fuses and the bracket I made under there. So there's still a little bit of wiring to do underneath the dash. But hey, considering all the struggles I had, that dashboard actually doesn't look half bad. I think that turned out pretty nice. So I'm excited to finish up the last bits of wiring we have, get the seats in, then the interior will technically be done. But yeah, there's still, I don't know, maybe, we're probably maybe, I don't know, 85% done with the wiring. There's still a little bit left to do under the dash, like I said, and then some other miscellaneous things here and there. But now that I got the dash all completed, we're kind of knocking things off the list here, getting closer. The next episode, next project here, is actually going to be something pretty exciting. And I think that'll give you a hint of what it is. I'm just waiting on a couple more pieces. Hopefully they'll get here this week, and then it's on to that.